destroyed people who were trying to improve these communities. And I'm sorry, when we talk about infestations, I think it's kind of silly because over the past 4 years, Mar-a-Lago has had, I think, like maybe 4 or 5
Let's find
code violations.
Yeah, it's been more than time to see something. This is number 2 from my producer. This is actually number 3. Rust, mold, parasites. Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago cited for 78 health violations in the last 3 years. Yeah. So Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago is full of parasites, right?
Infested.
It's infested.
It's infested.
They store hot dogs on the floor.
And they all have orange fur.
Let me get the Tims in here because we have Tim Wise and Timothy O'Brien who are at a disadvantage because you guys can't have fun with us at the table. But I want to go to Tim Wise first. We separate you by Tim and Timothy because Tim. We found out this week that the Trump administration, because they always try to back into Donald Trump just angry tweeting at the TV, oh no, it's strategy. He means to do that because he's going to somehow win the election. Okay, so now what his backfillers are saying is that this is how he wants to win, that he just needs to excite more white working class voters using this strategy of being racist toward anybody black or brown he sees on television. I mean, we're going to talk about this more in the next block, so I don't want you to expend all that now, but shouldn't white people be offended that Donald Trump and his party apparently think white people are so knee-jerk racist that the only way to get them to vote is not to offer them health care, not to talk to them about policy, that literally Donald Trump and his people think white people are so racist that the way to vote is to be racist?
Right. I mean, these are people who lost their mind because Hillary Clinton referred to them as deplorable, but they voted for a guy who clearly believes that they are deplorable, who clearly believes that they are so bigoted that he can play this role of a political opiate. That's what Donald Trump is. What does an opioid do? It supposedly takes away your pain, right? But it doesn't solve your problem. Donald Trump is a walking, talking opiate. He tells white people, I can take away your pain, but then he doesn't actually fix their broke-ass communities. He doesn't actually do the things necessary to make their lives better, and yet he believes them to be so bigoted that they will overlook that. The people he is insulting are not just black Baltimoreans. It's not just the black folks in John Lewis's district who he said the same kind of thing about a year or so ago. He is offending white working class people by assuming that they are bigots. So they ought to be offended by this, but of course there's a good number of them who will not be. The question is, will enough of them be to make the difference in 2020?
And just really quickly to stay with you for a moment, because Donald Trump seems to assume that all poor people are black and all black people are poor except celebrities, and they're the only people who he accepts in the way he treats black people. You're from the South, my friend. Is there poverty in the South? Are there white poor people?
There are millions of white poor people, and he has done very little to fix their communities. He has done very little to bring the jobs back to their communities. He doesn't have any plan for doing those things. So instead, the politics of prejudice, which is what he's doing, the politics of racial scapegoating, blaming black and brown people for problems that they did not create. This is literally the oldest play in the playbook. It's like Donald Trump opened the political playbook. It was on page 1. He's like, yeah, I'm just going to go with that one. I don't see any reason to be creative.
And by the way, just for our viewers, our great producers look these numbers up. The highest poverty rate in America is in a state that voted for Donald Trump, Louisiana. The second highest, it's 20%. 1 out of 5 people in red Louisiana are poor. In Mississippi, it's 19.5%. That's the second highest poverty rate. Red state that voted for Trump. New Mexico, which is the state in this list, 18.7%. West Virginia's after that, then Kentucky. Oh, that's got 2 Republican senators, including the Senate Majority Leader. He's the leader of the Senate. You know how much power Mitch McConnell has? What has he done to get rid of the 16.4% poverty rate in the state of Kentucky? Alabama follows that, red state that voted for Trump. Arkansas follows that, red state that voted for Trump. Georgia probably might have voted the other way, but they can't trust their elections. Arizona, also a red tinging toward bluish state, and the District of Columbia. So Donald Trump's got a lot to work on, and maybe Mitch McConnell can help him. Let's go to Timothy O'Brien, because somebody else who might have been able to stop the dilapidation and rats and infestation that Donald Trump thinks is in Baltimore is his son-in-law. Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, had a family company that has faced more than 170 violations. He has been called a slumlord by people who have lived in his buildings in ... Baltimore. Timothy O'Brien, your thoughts?
Well, look at the Pandora's box of issues the president has opened up by once again openly being a racist and inviting people to actually road test these assumptions and theories he has about life in cities he doesn't visit or live in. We should add to that list of states with high poverty rates and unemployment problems South Carolina. Mick Mulvaney was on Fox and Friends this morning saying that if he presided over a district that had the kind of problems that Baltimore has, he would have lost his job. And in fact, poverty rates and unemployment rates in the district that Mick Mulvaney once represented in Congress has poverty rates and unemployment rates comparable to Baltimore's. So I guess he'll have to hold himself accountable. And in that same vein, if the president is going to hold politicians accountable for some of the problems, employment and crime among them, that cities struggle with, like Baltimore, then he also should hold the business community accountable for helping solve them. And I think that that's the thing that's thrown into relief when he has the temerity to talk about Baltimore and to talk about it as if he were a plantation owner.
Yeah.
And overlook the fact that Jared Kushner and his family have a long track record of running residential properties there that have been plagued with not only housing violations, but they've also been accused of essentially rigging court actions to drive vulnerable or low-income tenants into the ground in those residential properties.
And to stay with you for a second, Timothy, I mean, you've been a biographer of Trump. Didn't Donald Trump also used to let buildings go bad, let buildings become overrun with garbage and et cetera, to get people to move out so that he could repurpose the buildings and make money?
Well, famously, that was a multi-income strategy he used because it wasn't just in low-income areas. On a property he owned on Central Park South, he actually invited homeless people into the building in order to encourage other tenants to leave so he could convert it into condominiums.